How's everyone?
Fine,
Hey,
thank
morning,
you.
guys. Morning.
Morning. So everyone's good?
Yeah,
Oh, all good. Getting hot and back to summer very quickly. Went from 16 degrees to 32 degrees in a week.
Oh,
That gives you cracks.
but you know, the nice thing here is that you might wear a pullover today, and you still call it winter, and 2 days later you are in a t-shirt and you call it summer because there's nothing in between.
Yeah.
No Aprils and Novembers like in Europe. Anyway, Thomas, are you back in Germany or are you still in Costa Rica?
I landed last night in Berlin, and currently I'm a bit improvising. I'm a bit homeless at the moment, but
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, but I'm back. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Shall I kick off?
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Sebastian, I must say I was a bit shocked when you kind of called the South African prototype being in jeopardy, because I didn't think that our relationship was that fragile. Actually, I thought our relationship was quite solid. And even if we kind of disagree on occasions, it would be solid enough not to lead to a reaction like that. But just that is my... and the other remark I wanted to make was because when Wayland said he was confused, and you guys said, no, we didn't talk about creating apps. I just wanted to go back to what Thomas said, was to work on a kind of infrastructure that could be digital or an app or some other kind of software for community to come to critical hurdles. I mean, this is straight copied from the way you said that, Thomas. I don't think we need to go into long conversations about it, simply to kind of point out why in that instance I reacted the way I did and possibly when and the way he did. The other remark I wanted to make, and that's why maybe from my point of view, I wasn't happy with the session and said we should have had the conversation before. I just want to share with you what I thought the sense-making session should have been about, and that you understand where I come from. For me, the sense-making session, the purpose was to explore what we have learned. In other words, I would have hoped and wished that many of the participants on the day would have read or listened to the recordings, or at least read the transcripts, which I'm sure they haven't. But anyway, so going back, for me, the purpose was, what have we learned? What is missing? And there's still a lot missing. And how do we fill the gaps before we even start identifying what to tackle? And out of that, the moment we start filling gaps, was to develop a vision or an overall picture. And that was for me and my expectation. So just to put things in perspective.
Thank you, Hermann. So I just like to add two things, maybe again on the topic of using the term in jeopardy. So that was mainly because of Thomas and myself. We had the impression after the conversation and the confusion and the following emails that we are drifting apart regarding the understanding of motherland. And if this is drifting apart, then you have to ask the question, okay, if we are that far divided, so to say, in the understanding of motherland, then we have to question what we are doing here, because if we are running into the wrong direction and we are not working on a daily basis in a project together, then it might happen that things are really going into different directions, which shouldn't be the case. And that is the origin of the term we used. And regarding what Thomas meant, and Waynand got confused, maybe Thomas can add his understanding, and then we can also say something what on you just have said, what our understanding of the sense making is.
I think this is all connected. So I might have used the term app, but the very fact that this got you so distracted and thrown off the track means that we're probably not aligned on a central assumption on what motherland actually is. And if that is true, which we would have to find out, then we cannot work effectively or work together effectively, because we're working on different things without noticing. And therefore, I would repeat the question which you started answering, Herman, when we got interrupted by Vuyo in our last call, which is, what is, and I'd like to hear that from both of you, Waynand and you, Herman, what is motherland in your understanding?
Well, motherland wants to facilitate a process that ultimately ends up in communities being more self-sufficient and self-reliant.
But how does motherland achieve that?
Well, I think that is part of exploring it through the prototype.
Okay. Waynand, what's your take?
Yeah, I think going back through notes and some of my meeting notes and some of the records that I've kept, I've gone back and I've searched it all and looked at just my understanding to try and get clarity on, am I missing the point completely? And I think what Herman said is basically the gist of it. It's to add to what he said is, how do we enable a community, for example, and a community could be physical people living in one area. It could be, well, we've identified community over the last year quite extensively, but how do we enable those people to reach a common goal? And going back to, I haven't discussed this with Herman, but I did send him my business creation model, which I sort of had drawn up probably after the second or the third meeting that I had been involved in with Motherland. And with a few small alterations, this remains my understanding, and that's the one that Herman sent out this morning. And I mean, the prototype with the community, this whole thing becomes completely replicable across the continent in how many multiples we want to do. But I mean, it's a very clear picture in my mind as to how we involve people in a community to become the suppliers into this prototype. how to become the service providers into this prototype, and how we enable a community to take themselves to the next level. And that is done through various things, agri-colleges being the training provider, CSI funds, international funds, foundations, however we want to fund it. And then the startups, of course. The startups play a critical role. But how do we involve those startups in linking them? And that's what I think Motherland's main task is to investigate and to link the people. But it's going to change from one to the next. It's not going to be straightforward. It's not going to be set in stone, and we've got to be flexible and identify in each instance where the quickest, easiest impact is going to be.
Okay. Herman, is there something you'd like to add after hearing Wayne?
Not to his remarks. What I'm missing in our conversation, and what I missed on that Friday, is we have a big picture for Motherland, but I think I think you called it a meta picture. And I think we also need a similar kind of meta picture specifically for the prototype. Now, we as Motherland have been talking about with each other for well over a year. And I think we cannot expect that after one visit, where we only touch one part of the community, okay? We didn't speak, for example, to community leaders. So we are speaking to farmers who look through farming eyes at their challenges, which we would see as a tool for improving communities, because the communities are living in rural areas. But that is only their opinion. We have not looked through the eyes of a community, for example. So what I'm getting at is that I think we have enough material to paint the big picture, even if it's only 60 or 70% correct, and say what is still missing, what have we got in order to understand. I mean, Thomas, you yourself said, we know shit. That was your very word on that Friday. And in order to know a little bit more than shit, we need to have more conversations based on a bigger picture to fill the gaps. And then say, okay, where do we have our in-house skills, which we could apply ourselves? Plus, how do we bring startups in? Another remark I wanted to make was about the very often cited hypothesis. Even a hypothesis is not something cut in stone. It needs to be flexible. If I still a research question in a research undertaking, I may, by starting working into the topics I'm researching, be compelled to change my research question. And so that is, I think, where all these misunderstandings and divergence come in.
There's been, I have a question. There's been a new word, for me at least, introduced in the last couple of conversations, specifically, I think, around that sense-making conversation, which is the hub. What is the hub in relation to Motherland?
For me, the hub is a tool to realize what we intend doing.
For me, it's a central point where it becomes the catalyst to enable us to activate that community. If we don't have a hub, in this case, Chavase Agridam as a hub, we're going to be dealing with 30 different farmers and 30 different opinions.
Yeah.
You have to have a central point, and that is, the term might not be hub, the term might be the prototype, but that is what the hub is, the prototype.
So I would take it a little different. So prototype is not the hub for me. I would take it a little different. And for me, the hub, as you said, is kind of a tool or a methodology to enable a local partner like Chivahase Agridam to become a sustainable partner for the smallholder farmers, the community, to provide certain services and assets as part of the community to help them develop and thrive for a longer time than Motherland will be the enabler inside of the organization, the community. And what Motherland and the prototype is all about, from my perspective, is that we bring in the understanding of the challenge, which we are still in the process to define. And then we need to derive the concept of enablement, yeah, which includes the infrastructure, digital infrastructure, or any type of other infrastructure based solutions by external partners, call it startups, or maybe there are some others that could support us with their solutions here, because we are not developing those solutions ourselves. But we need a partner on the ground, as you said, Wayne, and to make it somehow diffuse into the community and make the community self-sufficient and self-reliant. And this hub could play a major role, and we try to enable that. But Motherland is not the hub. Yeah, Motherland is providing everything around to create a potential hub. We are not owning the hub, but we are able to take this approach and bring it also to other communities where a hub might play a role, yeah, if there is a partner, but we also need to figure that out.
I believe that sorry, Thomas, go ahead.
I have a follow-up question. What is there an overlap between the hub and Chivahase in relation to Wembe?
Yes, and in this case, definitely.
And can you elaborate? Can you describe what that overlap looks like? Or are they identical, or is it what is Chivahase the hub, or how do you see that?
No, I think let's use bananas as a crop. There are 5,000 people, each with 4 or 5 banana trees in their garden around Chivahase Agridam in that community. They harvest the bananas for their own consumption, but they might have extra bananas that they sell next to the road for R1 a banana, to use simple terms. Chivahase Agridam has a pack house where they pack the 80 hectares of bananas that they grow already. They treat them with the necessary whatever chemicals that need to be treated with. They put them into the cold rooms, they dispatch them, and instead of R1 a banana next to the road, they get R2 a banana. They have the existing facility already. That becomes the hub where that community brings their bananas, where they can get R1.50 after Chivahase Agridam has taken 50 cents towards the packing costs. That's how I see it all working together. They become the enabler of that community with their existing facilities already. And that's just the bananas that I'm using as an example. They have drying facilities for about 80 tons of macadamia nuts. And there are 350 macadamia growers in the region, all with between 10 and 500 trees. But they don't have facilities to dry their macadamias. I see them bringing it into Chavase Agri Dam to the drying facilities. And instead of the woman Susan that is getting 120 Rand, or I think it was 300 Rand a box, a 20 kilogram box, they will export those nuts from their facility or send it to the local processors, and they will get upwards of 1,000 Rand a 20 kilogram box. So, I mean, you're talking huge increases in that community in income, and you're talking real impact. So that's how the overlap will take place. Chavase Agri Dam is not solely the hub, and that's not all there is. And Motherland, with what Sebastian said, Motherland is not the hub either. Motherland is the organization that is enabling the hub and Chavase Agri Dam and the community, and introducing them all and bringing them all to sit around the same table.
I think that the hub is actually a very appropriate concept, because the hub is a central part of a wheel. You've got your hub in the middle, and you've got your spokes, and you've got the outside a tire or a wooden kind of structure that gives you your round wheel. So that is why I actually like the expression hub, with a central kind of figure, for want of a better word, and the various spokes. And the ultimate, if you take then the round total wheel, the ultimate of that is the community. Maybe I'm hung up about creating a picture or a vision for the prototype number one, and also for us kind of being a bit more intimately involved than we otherwise would want to be, simply for the learning. Because whatever we learn as Motherland and as individuals, we can apply in whatever other projects we get involved in. It also gives us, as I said, the absolute knowledge and the right feel for when and how to bring the startups in. If we don't know fairly intimately what challenges we are being faced within that hub, how are we able to approach the correct startups to now get actively involved?
Okay. So let's build on that. How would you also again, I'd like to see or hear both of your perspectives on this. How would you see the next, let's say, 6 months panning out? So what is going to happen in what steps? We all know that plans never survive reality, but what would be the plan B that you would like to implement?
In my estimation, the following should take place. a very thorough evaluation of the recordings in order for being able to draw conclusions and start designing a concept. The concept as a basis for discussion between, a basis for a discussion paper between Chivasi, Motherland, and also a basis for an implementation plan. The concept to be bounced off of Chivasi, Acridem, and a couple of farmers. Plus, I think we need to, parallel to that, have a conversation with some community leaders and say, what are your issues? Because ultimately we want to solve challenges a community faces. Right now, our focus is on solving challenges farmers face. I'm not denying the interconnectedness, but we also need to see whether the desire of the community that, where the farmers live is aligned with the desires of the farmers. That's why I think it might be important. Then I would add the input to that preliminary concept, to go deeper, write a story for fundraising and the basic way forward. If the way forward should be in form of a hub, which I believe a lot speaks for it, we need to define what the hub looks like based on our concept. And again, I fully agree with you, Thomas. Whilst we're sitting down, making a plan, my life shows different things at us. I fully accept that. So, but without an overall picture, we've got nothing to guide us. We are talking in abstracts. That's my contribution.
So I think we all can agree on that, we need to deeper understand, and it was not so clear to me that so to say we haven't had a good understanding of the perspective of the community. Yeah. So, but as you said, Hermann, we need to really understand where is not only a challenge and maybe a need, but we also need to understand where is a pull of the community. Yeah, because we want to implement something that is wanted, yeah, and also make sense from our perspective, so we can bring in ideas and also maybe convince the community from those ideas. So we should be confident enough and willing enough, so to say, to make suggestions, yeah, on how things might look like, yeah, from an external perspective. But in the end, it's all about that the community wants to do it, because this is very important for the approach, because it's not about we are flying in from Germany, we want to build some facilities, we finance it, and we build it up, we teach the people, and then we leave. But we have never asked if they really want it and how that integrates with their daily life. Yeah, and therefore this is what we now iteratively need to continue to understand. Yeah, and I think we started just the process of sense making by having a look on the challenges and also opportunities when it comes to getting more out of, for example, macadamia. Yeah, so where is a financial lever to get more out of that, which is probably a good thing to start. But we need to understand what this might look like in the context of what you have seen. Yeah, and what is also feasible for the prototype. Yeah, and the prototype is about implementing and measuring if there is the intended effect we want to create, and does it start to build up momentum, yeah, in the community. Because if we are successful, they say we are going to continue that. We have understood how it's done, and it's running by itself. That would be my dream. Yeah. So maybe it takes not 6 months, but maybe 12 months. I don't know. Yeah. And we cannot know right now. So 6 months is an estimation just out of our brains, so to say, yeah, and we will learn how quick it will go. Maybe it takes longer, maybe shorter, I don't know. But in the end, the community, and that's why the pull is so important, should see an opportunity for themselves to make the livelihood, the economic viability, and the value based on the value chain of what they can produce and what they can enhance and produce, making it better for everyone in the community. And this is what it's all about. But therefore, as you said, Hermann, yeah, there is a big piece of the jigsaw puzzle. Yeah, we need to still find the pieces, yeah, and understand and how all of that fits together to fulfill what we are looking for, yeah, in terms of how does everything fit together, and is the pull really there, yeah, to fully support what we do, yeah. And then, yeah, and this is the last point which I like to make, is then we need to understand, is there any type of technology that will help, for example, when it comes to communication, or Waynand knows what is needed when it comes to education, to do cross initiative learning, yeah, more focusing not only on explicit knowledge, but also on implicit knowledge, what people are learning, yeah, and how we can exchange, etc., etc. Do we need a financing solution so that the community gets enabled to finance, for example, some gear, yeah, and things like that? So we don't know that yet, yeah, but this is then part of the core of Motherland, to find those type of solutions, yeah, to become able to bring those solutions to more people. Because the hypothesis is, if there is, for example, a software solution that enables full market transparency, yeah, who is growing what, when it will be ready to harvest, yeah, and so on and so forth, that will help us, yeah, to make more out of the potential supply and develop the supply and make it more usable or able to utilize for the development of the community, yeah. And this is then where maybe in the prototype, yeah, we are not able to set up a fully fledged accelerator, yeah, bringing in 10 solutions and maybe sometimes 2 to figure out which one is the best. We need to make it as small as necessary, yeah, to make it also viable. But in the end, it's all about the implementation, yeah, and we can do that also, let's say, only with 3 startups and 3 solutions, as long as it has a positive impact on the development of the community.
I think what is also important is to consider that we are engaged in addressing complex challenges to which simple solutions are the road to. So going back, my proposal would be, based on what the input we have, that we start writing a story, a vision statement, a mega, what did you call it, a meta story, Thomas, specifically for the prototype. And again, we need to consider that this is a work in progress. Whatever we put down on paper can change within the next 24 hours or even less, because of new realizations, additional input, etc., etc. But I think we need somewhere to have that kind of core work that we need to do. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think to add to, or to answer Thomas' question, what do I see happening over the next 6 months? I think a lot of research or exploring still needs to be done in the next 2 months at least, before we're going to get a definite picture of where we want to be with this specific community. And while that is taking place, we have to identify what we started doing last week with Vuyo on the call, identify those challenges and their impact and their feasibility. And once we can have a clear picture on all of those, start matching that with the solutions and the accelerators that could be the solutions to that. So I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done on just exploring the specific prototype, this project, this community. And I think that's where my mind would go, is that once we, or until we have that 100% clear vision of what that community is doing and what they are capable of doing and who their role players are, we're going to be talking about things that might not be applicable in that community. So yeah, to add to Herman, I think that's the biggest thing we need to, there's a lot of footwork to be done to get clarity on all of that.
Okay. So I see something's clearer now. Thank you. And I would like to ask, building on specifically your last comment, Wenand, whether the two of you together could maybe write up a page of what that looks like on the ground, because that is something Sebastian and I cannot judge. But what Sebastian and I can judge, and we're the stewards of, is scalability. So what we would then, the perspective we would then look at this is, how can we ensure that whatever you think currently needs to be done on the ground or should happen on the ground, how is that scalable? Because that is the one aspect of Motherland that we code in. We use software, but what we're saying with that is it has to be scalable, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to us investing all of that time and energy into a project that does, however important it is, only solve one community. That's important, absolutely. But if I'm going to solve the life of one community in the world, then it's going to be my community. What's Motherland is about, solving for many, many, many communities. So can you do that? Can you write that page, or does that make sense, or doesn't it make sense?
So maybe a remark from my side. So I don't think we need a 100% proof vision, or I would call it rather a mission. Yeah, we need to, what we want to accomplish for this community. Yeah, and I think we need to have a clear enough understanding that it's giving us a good guidance, yeah, for the decisions we need to do along the way, and draft a clear picture for the community, what they could expect from us, and also how they could contribute in a coherent way to achieve this joint mission for this joint project. And and I think it's no doubt, because it's a prototype, that not all of what we do is going to be scalable right from the start. Yeah, and maybe there is things where we don't find a ready-to-use solution for, yeah, from any type of partner, startup, whatever. But we are going to learn something where we have hard time to scale and maybe need to question the concept of motherland. But what we really need to look for is, in the end, what is scalable and how everything is fitting together. But what we need, as what Thomas said, is a clear enough goal, and probably it's like an impressionistic drawing and not a photorealistic drawing of how this prototype in this specific community should look like. And probably we are not able to do that now. And Thomas and I, we are definitely not able to do it because we are not on the ground. We don't know the community. We haven't met the people, etc., etc., etc. But we need to start drawing this picture. And from my understanding, we just started doing that by starting making this list of the challenges, yeah, and try to rate and understand. But these are just single building blocks. This is not the full picture, yeah, as Hermann said. So the community piece is missing, and how those things are interrelated with each other, and so on and so forth. So I think we need to continue drawing that. But what would help is coming up with a clear picture of a mission, yeah, what we want to achieve for this single community.
Can I ask, have you?
Yeah, carry on, Maynard.
Can I ask, have you looked at the business creation model thing that that Hermann sent this morning?
The doc.
Yes, I didn't have an in-depth look, but yes, I looked at it.
Because in my mind, that's as clear as I can give you at this stage for this specific community. I can share screen if just got it in front of me here now.
So maybe then what would be helpful for me would be to have those single word descriptions that whole system that you've just sketched out here in words to read, in prose. That would be helpful.
Okay, I can expand on this, but I just want to explain why I say this is as close as I can get at this stage. So
okay,
call this one in the middle whatever you want, whether it's the prototype, the hub, the central communication point, whatever it is. That is the hub where everything will take place. It's a physical place, but it's also a virtual place. It's not necessarily just a physical, that is the farm. I've put Motherland as the structured organization on the side because that is the main organization that connects all these other blocks to each other and brings them all to the party. If you go down the left-hand side, agricolleges, purely because that's us, I've put them there as the training provider. And then all of these others, the computers, technology, seeds, fertilization, irrigation, human resources, marketing, financial, all of these yellow ones on the left-hand side and at the bottom, those are people in that community providing the service, or it could be startup solutions providing that solution to this central community. And then on the right-hand side, I've got the operational support funding and ideas, student funding through our nonprofit company. That's all linked to international funding, and the startups are in here as well. And then you've got your community farmers into this, linking into this, and you've got your offtake and retail and export agreements taking the product away again. This could be applicable to any community across Africa because none of this really changed. This is how you make it scalable, because you replicate this model in any town, anywhere in Africa. The community of farmers could be growing spinach, they could be growing macadamia nuts, or they could be growing cattle. That doesn't change because this is not affected by any of that. You're just linking them to different providers and solutions. So this is as close as I can get. I'm happy to put this into more words, but I would like your comment on this. Is this moving in the right direction? Is our understanding correct?
The way I see it, I would say yes. I would say yes when the what makes up the hub is documented as a process that can be repeated somewhere else.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I'm sorry, my brain is slow today, because I've only slept 6 hours in the last 48 hours or something like that. So I'll have to integrate that for a while and think about that. But I can say it makes sense to me.
Yeah, and we can also, as you said, write a story out and develop a mission Sebastian referred to. Look, scalability has always been in our mind, and so has been co-creation. And again, by us being particularly with prototype number 1 intimately involved, because co-creation is a concept, and the actual activity of co-creation is being learned by working with others. And that's why it is important. And
so I think we all agree on that. Yeah. So I think we need to discuss that. Yeah. So I think we are all aware of that we are trying to find a solution that is pointing towards the direction, and then we anyhow need to learn along the way to make it finally work, right? So, and I think in general, so what would help would be kind of a description of the different colors that are used. Yeah. So, and definitely when I see the services down there, there are probably way more services. Yeah, that's why I would add a box for whatever type. Could be logistic services. Yeah, it could be whatever type of services. We don't know. Yeah, so there's probably way more to add. Probably you see that as an all around that is all kind of, let's say, yeah, input providers. Yeah, but way more diversified than just input to the farm, but also on the service level, yeah, and even on an educational level, and yeah. So in general, I think, yeah, go ahead.
But Sebastian, I think whatever we do right now is work in progress. So is a Wayland's graph. It's a diagram. It's a work in progress and needs to be adjusted as we go along. Like our story needs to be adjusted as we go along. Now, can I make a proposal for tonight? Should I send out a message via WhatsApp? Say, guys, what we want from you is you've all read the stuff or listened to it. We want input in order to from you from an outside point of view. Because the 4 of us are intimately involved, and it would be important for other people to comment. Whether we get it, I'm not sure. Or what would you expect us doing?
What exactly is the question you have for them?
Based on the assumption that they have either listened or read, they say, what is your understanding of what has been reported?
reported on what, on the prototype so far?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so I would right now I would continue the conversation of sense making regarding the challenges we have just started on our sheet, yeah, and try to better understand the different perspectives. Yeah, also someone from Kenya, if for example Kiptu or Elizabeth is joining, yeah, or Tawanda, yeah, to understand, so to say, the different perspectives on that challenges, yeah, and then it's important to sketch out what are the next steps and what is the directions where we need to learn, yeah, to finally narrow everything down on something that is in the end really doable for us, because we cannot change everything, yeah, right now. But what we don't want to understand is where to infuse the transformation Motherland hopefully is bringing to the community.
Two things about tonight. It might be that Ayanda is joining. He's one of the people from the first minutes of Motherland, so to say. He was there in the very, very beginning. And so just be prepared that there might be an unfamiliar face, but he's a long-term, well, observer from the far. And I probably won't make it to later today. I like using that group for sense making around the challenges. If that is because that is what I understood. Whether we're on a good track around the challenges, that's how I understood it.
Yeah, and I'll send a WhatsApp out on that. And I also ask, guys, any observations from you having read or listened to the stuff is welcome. We don't make an issue. The main focus is going to be around the challenges and based on the structure you put on the spreadsheet, Thomas.
Good. Okay.
Okay. Super.
Good.
Thank you. See you tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Thomas, have some good rest.
Yeah, I'll go and have it.
Thank you.
Go well. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.